Good morning, everyone. We will get started in just about 2 minutes. All right. Good morning if you are in San Diego. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are visiting us on Zoom from. My name is Ricky. I'm the Assistant Director of International Student Services here at San Diego State University. And this is a webinar for our continuing international students. We wanted to make sure that we gave you some important information regarding all of the changes that have happened over the last few weeks. So we appreciate having this time to be able to spend with you to be able to clarify and answer a couple of questions. A couple of house rules. So we do have our chat on. You certainly are able to input your questions for our team there. We will be answering the questions at the end of our presentation. So please do be patient with us as we go through the material, and we'll have plenty of time to make sure that we address all of your questions. So with that, I would like to take a moment to introduce Dr. Cristina Alfaro, the Interim Associate Vice President for International Affairs. Dr. Alfaro would just like to take a couple of moments here to welcome you to SDSU, welcome back to SDSU, and just spend some time with you. Christina, if you're available. I believe your microphone might be muted as well.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, good morning. Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting myself. My name is Dr. Cristina Alfaro. I am the Interim Associate Vice President for International Affairs. And it is my pleasure to welcome you this morning. We just wanted, one of my main reasons for being here this morning is just to give you some assurance that we are working very hard to make sure that we are here to serve you and to ensure that you feel supported. And one of the ways that our university, including our president and the CSU chancellor, what they've done is that they have stated very publicly in many of their communications their support for our international community. So one of the ways that we've been able to do this also is through the SDSU Senate resolution. And I just have a blurb here that I wanted to share with you that I think is really important for you to know. And that is that our SDSU Senate has publicly stated, and now we have this as a document, and it's a larger document that you are welcome to look at any time. But what we want to tell you is that as educators and members of a global educational community, we SDSU faculty and staff are dedicated to the success of all international students. It is the intent of this resolution to provide you, our international students, with reassurance that we support you and we will help you to achieve your academic goals and complete your degrees, especially in times of disruptive federal immigration policy. And I think that this is the roller coaster that we have all been riding with you. And but fortunately, we have Ricky, our immigration expert, here to help answer a lot of your questions. But I just wanted to welcome you and just to let you know that we are here to serve you. And we really believe that if we continue to work together, we will be able to help you complete your degrees. So good morning and welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfaro.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, which is Noah Hansen. Noah Hansen is the director of the International Student Center and would just like to take a couple of moments to speak with you as well.
Thank you, Ricky. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is great to see some familiar faces on the session today. And as Ricky pointed out, some of you are joining us in San Diego, some of you are in other parts of the United States, some of you are in other parts of the world. And I just wanted to remind you that while today this session is really focused on immigration, the team of people you see in front of you, we're here to support the whole you. And that might be challenges with immigration, that might be questions about finances or academics, mental health, maybe just being lonely. Our office will continue to share updates with you throughout the fall semester. And you're going to hear later in the session about ways that we can connect with you or you can connect with us if you need anything. But I really want to encourage you to reach out if needed. The international students on this campus bring a really important piece of diversity, a beautiful piece of campus culture, and you really matter to us, and we really want to be here to support you. So again, you're going to hear about some of the other ways to get in touch. Please do. We're going to be looking for ways to be proactive and reach out to you and do check-ins with you. But I really want to thank you for your contribution to campus, welcome your questions today, and want to point out that this great team of people on the screen in front of you, Christina talked about the immigration expertise of Ricky and the others on this team. This is an amazing group of people, and I feel really confident about them being on top of what the changes are happening with Immigration Matters. So if you have questions, please reach out to us. Sometimes students reach out to their friends or read what's online. I would like to remind you that this team is monitoring those regulations on a daily basis, and really encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions. So with that, again, thank you for being here, and I'll turn it back over to Ricky.
Great, thank you so much. So I would just like to take some time to introduce the team that's going to be presenting to you, and probably the team that's assisted you with some of your requests. Again, we have Noah Hansen, who is the director of the International Student Center. I am Ricky Paniagua. I am the assistant director of International Student Services. And today we have our advising team joining us, and that consists of Isabel Martorell, Lisa Lyons, and Laura Rubitsky. And in our live chat, we have assisting throughout the week, almost every single day, Allison Peppers, who is our intake coordinator. And we also have our student success advisor, Bianca Chow, who has assisted with other requests and needs as well. So this is a great team of people. Today, some of the advisors will be presenting to you. Up next, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Laura to talk about some of the immigration updates over the last few weeks. Laura?
Thank you, Ricky. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to speak with you all today. I'd like to provide you all with a little bit of context this morning around recent immigration policy changes. So as you're aware, obviously over the past few months in response to the global pandemic, the federal government has issued updates to its immigration policy for international students. So as continuing students, you are impacted a little bit differently than those who are newly admitted, and there's a lot of good news in that. There are two updates that have been posted by SEVP that apply to you as continuing students. The first is from March 9th, and the second that I'm going to focus on is from July 24th. This essentially reaffirms the March 9th update, and it is also posted to the ISC website. We've also emailed you about it, so please feel free to check back by visiting us there. So both of these updates allow continuing international students to engage in distance learning beyond the previous limits that were set out in the regulations about the number of online classes you can take. So that's okay as long as you are fulfilling other requirements to maintain status. And this last part about the other requirements will be discussed in more detail in a few minutes by my colleague, Lisa. So here's what this all means for you. As part of the SDSU Flex program for fall 2020, most classes will be offered online, with a few that will be offered in hybrid or in-person modalities. So as continuing students who currently have an active CVIS record, you will be able to continue your academic programs throughout the fall 2020 semester fully online from anywhere in the world and keep the CVIS record in active status. So specifically, if you will be in the US and enrolled fully online in the fall, that's okay. We're not going to terminate your CVIS record. Similarly, if you're going to be or remain outside of the US and enrolled fully online in the fall, that's also okay. We're not going to terminate your CVIS record either. So this is good news. So I want to move on to go over a few reminders and recommendations about travel that will be important, particularly for those of you who remain outside of the US during fall and who plan to return soon or anytime in the near future. So traveling when you're outside of the US is always a little bit risky. We can never provide you with any guarantees that you'll be allowed re-entry at the border. That's ultimately at the discretion of the US government at the border. And then particularly during these uncertain times, it's even more important than ever to think carefully about travel and of course plan accordingly. So as a continuing student, you can try to re-enter the US at any time now, before or during the fall 2020 semester. If you do that, please make sure that you are checking your local US Embassy or consulate website for any updates and possible restrictions on travel into the US from your country. And then, of course, also be sure to have all of your regularly required and valid travel documents in hand or in your carry-on luggage as you're traveling. And for a list of these documents, please, again, visit the ISC website. We have an international travel section that goes into a lot of detail there. Always a good reminder to look into that. Additionally, particularly with the circumstances that we are living in currently, we do recommend printing out and carrying that July 24th SEVP message that I mentioned earlier when attempting to re-enter the US. This message, again, it's on our website. And as I previously mentioned, this update does allow you to take fully online courses of study. I mention this because we have heard of a few instances where Customs and Border Protection officers have been asking international students at the border for proof of enrollment in a hybrid or in-person class. Now, of course, this question is no longer valid since you do not have to be enrolled in an in-person component of your academic program. So either way, in case you are asked to show this anyway, it could definitely be helpful to have a copy of this updated policy message to present to the officer. And that's really why we recommend having this printed out and ready in hand with your other travel documents. Now, another consideration for travel, of course, is your health and that of the community that you will be entering in the United States. The latest guidelines about this and how to stay safe and healthy are available on the Center for Disease Control, the CDC website. Now, once you're admitted into the United States, you will need to quarantine for 14 days and possibly follow additional instructions. If you are enrolled in a class that happens to have an in-person component, and again, you're not required to do that, but if that is a component of your class where attendance is required and you don't anticipate having enough time for the 14-day quarantine between the time that you arrive in the US and the date of attendance, we really encourage you to coordinate with your instructor and see what can be done about that to make any accommodations if possible. And then finally, for those of you who plan to travel back to the US and move into on-campus housing, please be sure to check the SDSU housing website. And of course, always check your web portal account for any updates, instructions, and deadlines. And if you have any questions about any of these areas, I'll be happy to address them later on today during the Q&A session. Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you very much, Laura. And again, just as a plug one more time, we did upload that broadcast message. It's on the very front homepage of our website, and it highlights the areas that talk about how a in-person course is no longer required. So that is accessible to you. You simply just need to go to our main homepage, and it should be right at the top for you to use. Next, I'd like to introduce Lisa Lyons, another advisor here to tell us about what you need to do in order to maintain your status as an F1 student. Lisa?
Good morning, everyone. Happy you could join us this morning or this afternoon or evening. So we'll talk a little bit about what it means to maintain your F1 status. So first of all, when we talk about your F1 immigration status, it's important to remember that your status is different from your F1 visa. Your F1 visa is that stamp in your passport, and it's like a ticket that needs to be valid when you enter the US, along with your passport and your I-20. If your visa expires when you're in the US, that is fine, as long as you are maintaining status. To maintain your status, some of the key requirements are full-time enrollment, a US address and phone number, and health insurance. So first, let's talk about full-time enrollment. As you already know, undergraduate students need to be enrolled in a minimum of 12 units each semester, and graduate students to be enrolled in a minimum of 9 units each semester. As Laura mentioned already, for fall 2020, it is okay to have more than one online class due to COVID-19. And some of you might have all of your classes online, and again, that is also acceptable for fall 2020. There are certain exceptions to the full-time enrollment requirement for which you can submit a reduced course load request. And some of you may have submitted these requests for past semesters. To see if you qualify for a reduced course load, please review that information on the ISC website for more details and for how to submit that request to our office, because since we've gone remote, a lot of our processes and forms have been converted to online, an online modality through our forms webpage. Also, an approved reduced course load request is the only way that you can be enrolled part-time and remain in the United States. If you are outside the US and your reduced course load request is approved, then you can maintain status while studying part-time outside the US for fall 2020 as well. Some of you may plan to be outside the US for the fall semester and take one or more classes, but not enough for full-time status. So let's say you're an undergraduate student and you only want to take one class in the fall, and you'll be remaining in your home country. So in that case, you would not be eligible for a reduced course load. So some of you might want to take 1 or 2 classes, but not enough for the full-time status, and you don't qualify for the reduced course load. So if that's your case, that's totally fine. However, you will need to follow our leave of absence process, which includes meeting with one of our advisors to complete your immigration requirement for fall 2020. If you will not take any SDSU classes this fall, then in addition to completing our leave of absence form, you will also need to apply for the academic leave of absence for fall 2020 in your SDSU web portal. And for more information on the immigration leave of absence part, that's our part, please visit the ISC forms webpage. So for both scenarios, for both cases, we would need to end, Laura had mentioned previously the word terminate, and that's the same thing. We would need to end your SEVIS record or I-20, since being enrolled less than full-time without an approved reduced course load or no enrollment will not allow us to maintain your F1 status for fall 2020. And just wanted to let you know that if we do that, ending your SEVIS record for this reason is not considered negative by SEVP, which is the Student and Exchange Visitor Program. So it's just a neutral reason for termination. And also, if you take that immigration leave of absence and we end your SEVIS record, remember that ending your SEVIS record will not automatically cancel your F1 visa, because your F1 visa is different than your F1 status. Okay, so some of you may also have read about a 5-month rule when outside the US. So the general rule is that if the time is less than 5 months from the date you departed the US to the date that you will re-enter the US, we should be able to reactivate your current SEVIS record. SEVP does make the final decision, though, on reactivating a student SEVIS record. If they approve the reactivation, then you will be able to use your current I-20 if the travel signature is less than 1 year old to re-enter the US. And this does not delay your ability to apply for work authorization, such as curricular practical training, CPT, and optional practical training, or OPT. If SEVP does not approve the reactivation, or if you are out of the US for more than 5 months, then you will need to request a new initial I-20 from our office, which is a very easy process. If this is the case, this might delay your ability to apply for work authorization, CPT, and OPT. We do encourage you to read the leave of absence, return request information on our website, and to submit the documents to us at least 6 weeks before you plan to re-enter the US for spring 2021, or at least 6 weeks before your visa interview if your visa has expired and you need to apply for a new one. And again, this is only for students who will be outside the US enrolled in less than full-time classes without a reduced course load, or who will not take any classes at any SDSU classes for fall 2020. We know this is a lot of information. If you have questions about taking a leave of absence and how this would impact you, please feel free to schedule an appointment with one of our advisors or meet with us during our walk-in advising. Okay, if you are enrolled, if you plan to be enrolled full-time for fall, another key requirement to maintaining your status is to have a US address and US phone number in your web portal. If you moved to another location in the US, please update your web portal with the new address, or even a new apartment within San Diego. If you will be outside the US and enrolled full-time, please keep your last known US address and phone number in your web portal. Please do not remove or delete that information since we will need it to register you for fall 2020 so you can maintain your status. Finally, health insurance is required if you will remain in the US for fall 2020. Please purchase health insurance by August 14th. If you are outside the US and will be enrolled full-time, but planning to enter the US sometime during the fall semester, then you should buy health insurance for the time that you will be in the US. And just a side note, if you are enrolled less than full-time outside the US, or you don't have any classes during that time, then again, you would have to request the return from the leave of absence so we can get your CVIS record reactivated before you re-enter the US. And then finally, if you will be outside the US the entire fall semester, you are not required to buy health insurance. So obviously we won't make you purchase it when you're outside the US. You don't need that health insurance in the US. And yesterday, our office sent an email about health insurance for fall 2020. Please check your inbox and spam folders for that email because it does have more detailed information about the health insurance requirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, I'd like to introduce Isabel. Isabel is one of our advisors who's going to talk to you about how to request services in our processes at the International Student Services Office. Isabel?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I get to talk about the exciting part of our online forms. This is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time, but this pandemic forced us to do it in a really quick way. So we're excited about all of our online forms now. As many as you know, we were all paper-based before, and you had to take all the papers to the office before. So now you can do everything remotely. I want to talk to you a little bit about our Forms for International Students webpage. So you can see a picture on this slide right here. Most of our services and documents you can now request remotely through this webpage. So to get to this webpage, there's two ways that I like to get to this webpage. From our homepage, you can always scroll down to where it says Document Request, and this section will include a link to this Forms for International Students. Or my way of doing it, which I think is a lot faster, is I always Google SDSU ISC forms, and it's usually the top result. So that's my favorite way of doing it, just because it's really fast. Let's see. So all of our forms will be in there. Some examples of the forms that you can request here or documents are new I-20. So if you've lost or damaged your I-20, you can request a new I-20 through here. If you need a travel signature, remember before you had to take it to the office, your I-20, and then we would sign it and you would come pick it up. Well, now we would just get you a whole new I-20 with a new travel signature on it. You can also request letters. So for example, a letter verifying your status as an international student at SDSU, or if you need a letter that states that you can take courses at a different institution. Other examples are if your I-20 is expiring and you need to submit an extension to your I-20, this is where you would do it. The leave of absence form that Lisa talked about, this is the place where you would request a leave of absence. If you're applying for CPT, and many other requests can be found in here. I won't go through them all, but these are just some examples. So something that's important to note is that each request has a little bit of a description below. If you see that it's in blue, the request is marked in blue, and that's a hyperlink. And then right below, you'll have a little bit of a description. So it's super important to read that before you submit the form, because many of these requests might have additional documents that you need to prepare in order to submit them. You might have to upload documents or additional forms to this online request. So make sure you're reading through the instructions for each one. The delivery method of of these requests and documents may vary depending on what you're requesting. Some of them you might, depending on what it is, you might get your request through email, or you might get it through postal mail. We do offer, if you're in the United States, standard shipment or also express shipment if you're outside the US or you're in the US and you just want it to be faster. To deliver faster. So when you go in the online form, it'll tell you, you'll receive your request through email, or you'll receive it through postal mail. And then how to purchase express shipment will also be in there if you wanted to select that option. So make sure, like I said, read the description below. And when you click on each form, you'll see at the top there's additional instructions. Please read that so you know what to expect. It'll tell you instructions of, what the delivery method is, and possibly any additional information that you need will be there. So just make sure you're reading all those things before you submit the form. We do ask that you, if it hasn't been 7 business days, all of our processes takes up to 7 business days. So if it hasn't been 7 business days, please don't submit a form again, because that causes confusion. So please make sure you're counting the business days. And if it's been 7 business days and you still haven't heard from us, you can go ahead and email our front desk. I'll share that email with you in just a second. I think that's it for the forms. We can go to the next one. All right, so I want you all to be super familiar with our homepage. So you see right there, the first bullet says sdsu.edu/international. That will take you to the International Student Center's main page. But the International Student Center has different offices within it. So you also have Study Abroad and the Passport Office. So you want to make sure you're clicking on international students when you go to that website. When you click on international students, it'll take you to this homepage that you see on the screen. So this is where you'll find all the helpful resources to know how to connect with us. I'd like to talk about the newsletter first. So if you see down the bottom right, I've circled an area where it says stay informed. That section is for you to subscribe to our weekly newsletter called In the Know. If you're not currently receiving the In the Know newsletter, I encourage you to do so, especially now with so many updates. We would like to include any updates in there as well. And just so you know, this is not only for students. So if your parents want to sign up for this newsletter, I would encourage you to tell them that they can, because I'm sure that they're worried too, trying to figure out what's going on in the US right now. So they can also sign up for the newsletter just by clicking on that button, and they would sign up for the newsletter. If you see right there at the top, this screenshot was taken yesterday or the day before, but that's where we put the updates in the blue, with the blue font. All of our most recent updates, we will continue to put them on there. So if we send a mass email to all students, it'll be in there. You'll see right there the date, and even at the top right now it says webinar for continuing students, but that's already been updated. That broadcast message that we talked about that you can use when traveling, that's been posted in that section as well. So if you needed to print that before you travel, that's where you would find it. So again, any updates coming from our office related to international students, we will continue to post right there. So this homepage, very important that you get familiar with it. So some other services that we're having right now in order to connect with you as we continue to work remotely is our live chat. So I don't know if some of you have used it, but we have, we're calling them virtual office hours, because we have a team member on there Mondays through Friday that you can chat with. And the way you can chat with them is, again, by going through this homepage, and at the bottom right, you'll see a message that says chat now. And it'll say chat now when someone's online. And our office hours, we have someone every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 12 p.m. And then in the afternoons, it's 3 p.m. till 5 some days, and till 7 p.m. other days. So make sure you check the virtual office hours are right on our website as well. So you can talk to someone live through there, and some of the things that you can live chat, we kind of treat it as a virtual front desk. So if you ever visited the ISC, that's, we have one great student assistant, and then Allison also at the front desk. So the type of questions you would ask at the front desk is the type of questions that you would ask here in our virtual office hours. So just basic questions, or maybe, if they can't help you, they'll help you make an appointment with an advisor or guide you through the type of request that you may need to submit. So this is a great way to get started to see if, and if you don't know if you need to meet with an advisor or not, this is a great way to live chat someone, and they can tell you, yes, it's best that you meet with an advisor, and they'll help you set up an appointment. Then we also have our virtual walk-in advising. So as you probably remember, we had walk-ins 1:30 to 3:30 every Wednesday. That is, we're still continuing that even though we're working from home, so you can still meet with an advisor. This is done through Zoom. So when you first log in, you will be placed in a waiting room. And then it's kind of a first come, first serve. So you might have to wait a little bit, just like you had to wait in the office as well sometimes. But these are really just kind of quick questions. We take about 10 minutes with each student. If it's going to take more than 10 minutes, we might suggest that you make an appointment at that point, because we want to make sure that we get to see all of the students that are waiting on the Zoom waiting list. So again, we're there every Wednesday. So if you need to connect with us, please visit us through walk-in advising. Then we also are doing Zoom appointments. So at any point, we're still accessible to you. We can meet for appointments. In order to make a Zoom appointment with an advisor, you can do it through live chat during those open office hours. You can tell them that you need to meet with an advisor, and they'll help you set up an appointment. Or you can also email the ISC reception at sdsu.edu email. I encourage you to, whenever you want to book an appointment, it's super helpful to send your RID ID. We have different types of students, right? Students who are continuing, students who might be on OPT, students who are new, students who might be on an F1 visa or a J1 visa. So we encourage you to talk a little bit about, tell us a little bit about why you want to meet with us, and include your RID ID as well. So the RID ID will help us identify the type of student that you are, and then also telling us why you need to meet with us, because maybe you don't need to meet with an advisor. Someone can answer your question right there. Or if you do need to meet with an advisor, it can help whoever's setting up the appointment know which advisor it might be best to meet with. So yes, let me see. I had some notes if I'm missing anything else. So I guess it's just, we hope that through these different avenues, you feel that you can connect easily with our office, even if we continue to work remotely. We want you to know that we're here for you, okay? We're working 8 to 5 every day. So we're here, we're still working, even though we might not physically be in the office, we're here for you. And we've created all these different ways to connect. So please take advantage of them, right? And I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Isabel. That concludes the presentation portion of the webinar. Again, if you have any questions, you are always welcome to email us at iscreception@sdsu.edu. Our website is also listed on this slide. We're open to now taking any questions that you might have in the chat. So if you have any, feel free to add those. We did receive a few as we were presenting. So let me move through here and see if I can address this. So one of the questions was related to PhD students. So does being enrolled in online research units allow those PhD students to maintain status? Lisa, is that something that you can address?
Yes, definitely. So yes, for PhD students, I know frequently that you take less than 9 units in a semester. So yes, so you would just need to follow that reduced course load process in order to maintain your full-time status and the health insurance requirement, et cetera.
And research units do count as units. It doesn't need to be a specific course. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, the on the reduced course load form, there is a space where their graduate advisor would approve that, and that would be fine.
Great, thank you. Another question. A student is completing fall semester from their home country. Will the 5-month rule be applicable? And can they still be eligible to apply for OPT? Lisa, is that another one that you could answer?
Definitely. Okay, so this says you'll be returning soon. So I'm guessing that means that you're going to try to return for the fall semester, right?
It sounds like they'll be staying home for the fall semester, so completing in the fall semester from their country. So they want to know, will they be able to apply for OPT?
Oh, an OPT one. Okay. So yes, if you're completing your final semester in your home country, you're maintaining status through there, and you want to apply for OPT, this is not something that has been addressed by SCVP because they are not in charge of the OPT approvals, actually. Those are done by USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So it is the final decision of USCIS if they would approve a student who's been out of the country maintaining their status for fall. So in that case, we can't say for sure if that would be approved or not approved. And so far USCIS has not provided any guidance. And since the COVID-19 emergency happened in March, and it's now July and they still haven't provided any specific guidance on that, I'm thinking that they might not continue to in the future. So I think if you're staying at home for your final semester, want to apply for OPT, there is probably a risk that your OPT application would not get approved. However, again, we aren't unsure. We haven't had any students yet applying for OPT from their home countries. So we don't have any results. We haven't received any results on applications yet. But if you'd like to discuss this a little further with me, I would be happy to have an appointment with you.
Great, thank you. Another question, if I'm outside the US and will be returning soon as a full-time student after the 5-month mark, do I need to request a new I-20? I think, Lisa, that's for you as well.
Okay, my guess is that you remained full-time enrolled for spring 2020, that you completed your spring semester. So if that's the case, then your CVIS record is still active, your I-20 is still active. And that means that as long as you have that valid passport, valid visa, and the travel signature on page 2 of your I-20 is less than 1 year old, then you should be able to return to the US, and it doesn't matter about the 5 months.
Great, thank you. We have a question here that says, will this session be recorded and you can watch it again? Yes, it is being recorded and you will be able to watch it again. It will be posted on that front website. There'll be a link to be able to watch it. I think we probably need the day, maybe Monday to get it up, but I'm hoping by the end of today we'll be able to upload it, and there'll be a link on that front website. Another question here is, I left the States on March 20th, and I got my I-20 signed before I left. However, do I have to get a new I-20 because it's been 5 months? Also, if I do have to get a new one, it's might not be possible since I have to come back on August 19th. Laura, can you answer that question? Does this student need a new I-20?
Sure, thank you for the question. So as long as you were enrolled full-time and maintained your status during the remainder of the spring semester, if that's the case, we would not have terminated or ended your status or your I-20. So the 5-month rule would not apply. I would encourage you, however, to check the travel signature on your I-20 on page 2. And if it is less than a year old, and it will still be valid for when you plan to return in August. In other words, if the date on that travel signature doesn't lapse or expire before you return, then you would not need a new I-20. However, if that signature will expire before you plan on returning in August, then you will need to request a new I-20 for the purpose of getting that updated travel signature. With the tight time frame, you will need to, and since you are abroad, you will need to request express shipping. So the sooner you submit that request with an express shipping purchase order, and all the instructions for that are on the form on our website, there might be an opportunity to get that to you. If that's not possible, please get in touch with our office and speak to myself or one of my colleagues, and we'll see. We'll look into your situation a little bit more closely.
Thank you,
I hope
Laura.
that answers that. Yeah.
Another question for you, Laura. Are students on CPT allowed to work from their home country?
Yes. So far they are. They are eligible to apply for CPT if they're remaining in their home country. So that's really great. Of course, there is a review process that happens with every CPT application. So that's something that I will need to review in more detail once an application is submitted, or if you would like to make an appointment. But so far, the regulations have not prevented CPT work from being done remotely, of course, as long as the work is tied to an organization or company based in the US and that supervision is there. And the the major department approves that. So please feel free to apply for CPT regardless of where you are.
Thank you. And Isabel, we have a question. I am planning to visit my home country during the winter break. What things should I take into account when traveling?
During the winter break. So who knows what will happen by then, right? But so I think everything that Laura mentioned with travel, but because it's in the winter break and we don't know how things are going to be in the winter break, I think it'll be good to check in back with us when it gets closer to that time to see if there has been any changes. Right now, what we know is what the guidance is for fall. We don't know if we're going to continue to be remote in the spring. Hopefully we're not. Maybe some hybrid model. We just don't know at this moment. So for right now, it would be checking basically the same things that Laura mentioned, you know, the CDC guidelines, making sure that all your documents are still valid, that you have a valid signature, but there might be additional things to consider. So we would just, you know, if you can hold off on travel and just, like, I guess in purchasing tickets, maybe just wait a little bit until we know a little bit more, because you know, things are changing constantly. So maybe sometime in November, you can check in back with us, check our website and see what updates we have for spring, because things could change for spring as well. So yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We have another question here. It says, I filled out my reduced course load form and sent it to my advisor and should get it back. Where should I send it once I receive it? You should submit it through our forms portal request that Isabel reviewed. So just go to our website. There is a reduced course load form that you can submit and attach that document to. Another question about health insurance. I bought health insurance, but decided to take fall outside of the US. Should I require a refund? Lisa, could you answer that question?
Yes. So if you are staying out of the US for fall, what you can do to request the refund is send an email to ISC reception at sdsu.edu with your name, red ID, state that you will be out of the US for fall and you would like a refund. One of our staff then will submit the refund request and that should be refunded to you within like 2 to 3 weeks from there.
Great, thank you.
Oh, sorry. And I just wanted to say, I believe that our new reduced course load form will be live on our forms webpage on Monday, this upcoming Monday. Is that correct, Ricky?
I believe that's correct.
Yes. So right now it's not there, but beginning Monday, you should be able to submit those reduced course load forms to us.
Thank you. And we have another question here that is from a student that is enrolled in a joint doctoral program. To that student, I am going to ask that you email us at ISC reception. It is a very unique situation and program, and I will be sure to address your question directly. So if that joint doctoral program student can just email us, we will address your case question. We have one more question here that says the SCVP website states schools can use electronic I-20s during the pandemic. Does SDSU plan to adapt an electronic I-20? The answer is yes. We are working on trying to find ways to facilitate e-signing. Our goal is to try to have that up and ready for use by the beginning of the fall quarter, which I think would be a welcome service to everyone. So give us some time, but there will definitely be an announcement and message sent out to everyone once we are able to start using those. And we will use those for as long as we are allowed to, because those are a temporary authorization. And again, just as we had mentioned, sometimes there can be some inconsistencies with the ways that the border entry agents might let you in. They may not know that that's acceptable. Sometimes in terms of, applications and visa requests, it can be a little bit inconsistent. So we just want to make sure that we also have supporting documentation that says electronic I-20s are available for use once we start using them. So just keep an update on that. And we will be sure to communicate that out once we have that process up and running. And then it looks like we have one more comment about health insurance. Lisa, can you go ahead and address that?
Oh, yes, I did. I didn't say specifically, but I just wanted to make sure that, that our students knew that if you remain in the US for fall semester, you're enrolled full time. So it's anywhere in the US, not just San Diego, could be Hawaii, Alaska, wherever, that you do still need to have health insurance. Thank you.
Great. And then we have another question here. So if a student is outside of the US for more than 5 months, but enrolled in a full course load, can the student still enter in the spring semester with an I-20 having a valid travel signature? Lisa, can you answer that one?
Yes. So yes, so if you will be enrolled full-time for fall 2020, then we're maintaining your CVIS record, your current I-20, and then you would be able to re-enter with that I-20 if it has that valid travel signature for spring 2021.
Thank you.
Could I add to that, Ricky?
Yes.
Just because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. So just to make it clear, the 5-month rule does not apply if your I-20 has been active this whole time. So even if you're outside the United States for more than 5 months, if your I-20 has remained active, that means you were enrolled in the spring, that does not apply to you. So I can appreciate it's a little bit confusing because it's, you know, usually when a student is outside 5 months, when there was no COVID, that means their record was terminated. So that's why that 5-month rule applies, is if your record was terminated at some point, that's when the 5-month rule applies. But if your record has been active this whole time, because we were allowed to keep your record active due to the exception for COVID, then the 5-month rule does not apply. So I just wanted to clarify that because I think there's a little bit of confusion with that.
Thank you for clarifying, Isabel. We have another question here. I transferred to SDSU for the fall 2020 semester. I'm currently in the US. I'm planning to travel to my home country in a few weeks. I have a valid visa and I-20. Can I return to the US in the middle of the fall semester, considering that I will take only online classes? So I will address this question. If you report to the institution as a transfer student in the US and start your courses, engage in them, and then maybe traveled out and then returned back in the middle of the fall semester, this would be fine. I think the important thing to remember here is the initial reporting. So if you are able to determine which days you're going to travel, my recommendation would be that you travel out of the US after the fall term has started, so that way you can do your initial reporting. And then once engaged with your courses, then navigate traveling out of the country and then returning back in the middle of the fall term. All right. Any last lingering questions? Looks like we are at the end of the questions. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope this was helpful for you. We hope that you are now better acquainted with all the services and access that you have to the ISS team, that now you're acquainted with the ISS team. Again, please remember that all of us, Noah, Christina, Isabel, Lisa, and the entire rest of the team are here for you to support you. And if you have any questions, please always reach out to us, and enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Take care.